Excited to have the Women's Parliament being held for the second time in about 30 years. This year's celebration is resonating from the Beijing Platform for Action and the 1995 Constitution, which provided for affirmative action for women's inclusion in decision-making space and managerial space. Today, we are excited that the Honorable Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among, has hosted us. As she was beginning her term of office, she informed the Ugandans that it will be a people's parliament. Children have been coming to parliament and they make their petitions. The youth, the person with disabilities, the citizens in different walks of lives. Women constitute a certain generic factor and constitutes about 51% of the total population. And they have specific needs as women. Some of them have been legislated upon, and other legislations have certain gaps. Even implementation of our legislations sometimes have challenges. So the Women Council leadership, the Women's League, the youth representatives for women and for youth at the different, for female youth at the district level, meaning the youth councillors at the district level, abilities who are female, have all joined hands with the women members of parliament, joined the speaker in constituting a parliament. They held elections today. They looked for their own speaker by vote, and the deputy speaker, a session was held. But there are certain key pertinent issues in Uganda. We usually measure the gender gaps according to certain scales of performance in 12 thematic areas. So in Uganda specifically, there are issues and challenges with women in education, women with the environment, women with the legislation and decision making, and the women with entrepreneurship and income generation. We felt those are 4 key specific areas where we need to cover certain gaps. Among them, issues that were pertinently raised were in education. The policy that is domesticated under the Ministry of Education has included young girls in education and education for all. Gave an opportunity for women, all of them, to go to school, which was breaking the cultural barrier that eliminated women and girls from pursuing academic careers. However, 30 years of implementation of universal education, primary education, secondary education, we see an emerging of school fees, even in government-aided schools, which eventually leads to girls not be able to complete or pursue their education, even at primary level or secondary level. So that element of allowing teachers to ask for money has been exacerbated in the villages. Sometimes they pay 100,000, 200,000 shillings, 300,000 shillings. So if you have 5 children, they may not be able to go to school and complete. Secondly, the 1.5 additional points to girls in universities had also a policy lacuna that it did not provide the same opportunity to girls joining tertiary institutions. And that's what would support girls and women to get into science, technology, innovation, what is called STEM, and vocational. So the women here in their parliament amplified the need to apply the 1.5 additional point to girls enrolling into tertiary education. We also realized that young girls who got pregnant during COVID time were discouraged from continuing with education when they are pregnant. On the other side, we are looking at women who are pregnant when they are working, continuing with their businesses. Those who are in the markets are continuing to work. Those in the fields, in the villages who are digging, are continuing to dig. So they said women pregnancy is not contingence, because the assumption was that if a girl is pregnant in primary or secondary, she will encourage all the others to get pregnant. But you don't catch pregnancy by looking at somebody. So we thought we should continue sensitizing girls not to be pregnant or get pregnant, but when they run to an education institution to be kept there, let us not push them away. Let us encourage them to complete so that they are able to carry on with their career, even if she had the challenge of getting pregnant during school time. Because the boy on the other side who impregnated her has continued with his career and education untouched. When it comes to access to economic development, number of challenges was the biggest challenge. To begin with, the advantage is that Uganda has given us an opportunity to work in free space. Many of the markets that have been constructed by government, we have about 80% women in those spaces. Women are allowed to work for an income, and an income which is equivalent to men's income if they are pursuing the same job. Like in the media, if you're pursuing or have the same portfolio or office, you're earning the same with irrespective of your gender. And that has raised the participation of women in income generating activities. Now they own about 44% of the businesses in Uganda. However, their businesses are at a low scale, they are not registered. In case of fires, in case of any catastrophe, sometimes they will not get compensation. Sometimes they cannot quantify how big their businesses are. Sometimes they even employ uneducated but unskilled, maybe unskilled, but relatives who run down their businesses. And so it is important for them to look at the challenges as they pursue their businesses and be able to correct them by registering, by being able to also pay taxes, by being also to be on to ensure that the money is banked. We don't keep the money in the houses because it can be taken away by anything. We plan, we prepare ourselves. We don't go shopping, getting everything that shop are taking, but we plan for even what you want to do shopping for. We also have a challenge that we had GROW, a project called GROW, which gave a grant to Uganda, and many women leaders were not informed about its operations. The GROW program is a grant for Uganda, but the World Bank did not want just raw money, which is not taxed, which will bring inflation. And therefore, the money was dispensed through the banks to guarantee that the money will be able to come back. So the banks in Uganda also have the specific packages for women, which compete with the one for GROW. Like there is Superwoman in a Centenary Bank, and I'm sure there are many other packages targeting women in the different banks. So the challenge was that when we gave money, we published it so much, and women ran there, but in just a day or two, the money was depleted from the banks. So women continued publishing and giving information, awareness campaign about the presence of money, and yet money had already been depleted by the same women in the banks. So that posed the challenge of people thinking that maybe it was not there or they never received because they went after the money had been depleted. But we have many different packages under GROW, to which we think we are going to call all these women leaders, because the World Bank negotiations did not include women leaders in that program. Now there is an amendment. We are going to review the proceedings about GROW dispensations, which will require that we add women leaders so that at least they get information. Once they have sufficient information, they will be able to display the information, distribute the information, and dispense it to other women who are beneficiaries of GROW. And also the other packages of GROW should be able to benefit women, including skilling, including training, including common user facilities that will be constructed. Those would be other women who are not under the capital venture desire could be able to benefit from other packages under GROW. Now on justice and law, the women's concerns was violence was continuing. Although physical violence has gone low, now people have resorted to economic violence. Some people have abandoned their responsibilities and left them to women. We have been able to understand today that while we had known that men are leaders of the homesteads, now in Uganda we have 50% of the homesteads led by women. That is an emerging issue that we cannot lose focus on. So women who are leading families need to be prepared for leadership of families, because it requires a lot of nurturing, and they have to take up both male and gender roles to nurture their children to become responsible citizens. There were also concerns under justice that we have concentrated on women's emancipation. Where is the boy child? Are we not leaving the boy child behind? So that is an assumption that when women sit in the space, they are only talking about themselves, they are not talking about their boy child. But there's nothing that women connive about men that does not benefit men. That is one thing, because they are future husbands. We have to take care of them. And it gives me a surprise and an encouragement that when women are seated in their own space to discuss about their issues, but they also think about how they have not yet been able to connect with men or uplift men. So our desire was to uplift the positive masculinity, that a man should remain in space as a man with his all masculine powers, but positive masculinity. Don't use their energy to fight. Don't use their energy to infiltrate, to control, to overpower women. But let us work together to support, to protect, and to give guidance that it does not make anybody get threatened for women to be in their space, and they should not use it as a platform to torture men in any way. That we had was in the political space, political representation. The affirmative action, which was passed in the 1995 Constitution, was a very instrumental for bringing women into leadership. We would not be able to see these faces of women because before 1995 we only had two women, one who was appointed and another one was elected. So the coming of affirmative action was to provide, to begin with, 30% of representation of women. But the law as it stands does not bring 30% in parliament. The law that brings only women representatives in parliament does not bring 30%. I have researched it academically. I know that the highest has ever risen was 29%, not 30%. And these are 30 years. And yet it was an understanding that the coming of 30% women would influence the others to at least begin contesting on the open seat. But we don't see many women coming on the open seat. It is like now a preserve for men. Whenever a woman wants to contest on the open seat, they say, why don't you go back to your seat? H4 Chamwe. There is one space for you, which is the women's representation. But you see, the number of constituencies are far too many compared to the number of districts.
What do you think is causing this?
The creation of constituencies, the breaking out of constituencies are so many. But also, there is patriarchy. Uganda is still very patriarchal. Women are not going to cross without a hurdle. Now we have a lot of media campaigns where people gang up and put a woman in the corner and bash her there. I can guarantee, I can assure you with a lot of certainty, not many women are in the media space. I am sure they all know. Not very many. So those few who are in the media space, some of them will want to connive and gang up against the woman, put all the propaganda against the woman, and the woman will shy away. So we've encouraged women to contest anyway. In every position.
Today you interacted with these women leaders, your fellow leaders.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, local government, what did they single out as the challenges that are hindering service delivery, especially in the health and education sectors?
To begin with, in the health sectors, is the implementation. A few elite can connive and sit to agree that let us charge the people out there, even when it is a government program, not to charge anybody extra school fees. And they will make it. Because within the laws, we put a certain provision that if the school wishes to add something extra to the teachers, so they use that lacuna, and they have continued to increase school fees to a level that some of the people now, a number of young people have dropped out of school because they cannot afford. Two is sensitization of the policies. The young people in the districts who are in the leadership sometimes may not know. We make policies and laws here every day, from Tuesday to Thursday, every week. But how many of those laws and policies are known to the local people? Not very many. So the little they know is what they will dispense. In terms of health, access to health has been a challenge. There are specialized treatments that we do not get even at the referral hospital, that you have to come all the way to Kampala. Mental health, for example, is a big challenge now, especially with exposure of young people with drug addiction and drug abuse. So mental health is rising, and by the time people declare that somebody has a mental issue, it should be declared by a regional hospital. It should be also treated at a national hospital. But it also requires police to come and pick up this person. Where do they keep them? They do not have facilities where they keep safe spaces for keeping such persons. And the maternity centers, I heard about this critically in areas of the north, Karamoja and Western Nile, access to medical services. Although government's policy is to have every sub-county have a health center 3, it is not every sub-county that 3 has. And therefore they walk and trek very long distances. For specifically one area in Karamoja, where you know they walk about 25 kilometers to get a health center. So if somebody is pregnant, you have to come closer to the health center 6 months before, so that you'll be able to commute with ease. But where would you be? Who would be hosting you? Who would be feeding you? Who would be accommodating you? That is a big and major challenge. Healthcare, and also the availability of drugs. Availability of the medical practitioners is not also guaranteed. Sometimes you don't find the doctors there, sometimes you don't find the medicine there, and you don't also have the resources to buy the medicine, which they may refer you to buy outside the clinic. So health, access to health, and you know women are caregivers. Every woman is a caregiver. She will give birth, but she also care for anybody else in the family that is sick, be it male or female. She has that responsibility. So that's why the issue of medical services are very pertinent and close to the women. And because of their caregiving services and nurturing services, they will talk about more of education and health, because they are supposed to educate, they treat, they nurture through education, and therefore issues of education touch them so much. Those are gender roles. Issues of medical services also are pertinent to women, including decision making. Important to celebrate International Women's Day. Since 1989, 1984, Uganda has always been celebrating the International Women's Day. And the reason is to take stock of the achievements of women in the movement to achieve gender equality and women empowerment. Women we know had been marginalized by our traditions and by our culture and also religion. So this marginalization that took place for so many years would not just have broken down in just a day or two. Even when the economy has improved, even when we have been discussing about the issues, they continue to reoccur. And sometimes there's also a backlash. So we have improved. We have to take stock. We have to show where we have reached. 30 years down, the women, Uganda being a signatory to the international frameworks for gender equality and women empowerment, the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination, the Beijing Platform for Action, all those bring us to domesticate them. And when we domesticate them, we pass laws and policies. Among them, there is a anti-female genital mutilation, which still occurs in certain corners. Yes, we have the anti-human trafficking of persons, which still occurs, and in different forms now, because now women are being trafficked to out of the country, Middle East. A number of them, by the way, who cry out to us for reach and support, a number of them have gone into by the company. Some of them have gone by themselves. Some of them, scrupulous companies, take them away. So for them to come here, or for us to raise this awareness, we want to tell them the proper procedures under which, if you wanted to get a job, how do you go? How do you get treated? How do we support? How does government support you? What are your rights? So we take stock in this direction. We want to inspire women even to contest. There are available opportunities. We bring them the emerging challenges, emerging issues. Now we have STEM. We also have information and technology, which is changing. In the space of artificial intelligence, how do people survive? All those cleaning facilities, the artificial intelligence is now beginning to shake and threaten women's roles. So how do we survive? We have to invade what men do. Because men have attempted to get into the women's space where they used to do. They do pedicure and manicure almost single-handedly. They are cooking, they are big chefs in these big hotels because there is money. At home they don't cook, but when they go to hotels they do cook. So for us, what is wrong with us driving a big bus like this when you're a woman? What is wrong with the putting up constructions? Now we are even encouraging women who have been running businesses to upscale their businesses so that we come now to negotiate with the government to give them 40% of the businesses in private sector to be run by women.
Kiteke mu Rwomuka, akiro kya bakyala.